All right, we're live now. We're live. Yeah. All right. So Corey says wash hands. Yeah, I had to get my mask washed. What's up, everybody? It's Flux of FluxWithIt.com. This is Brad of Isla Instruments. So we're gonna talk about lots of stuff today because it's been a while since we've had a proper update. A really long while, actually. So long that Brad forgot what we even had to talk about. He's been busy. He's been busy. So, Brad, first off, I want to we'll dive into a couple of very quick basics because I always get this with every show. First off, S2400, formerly known as SP2400. Basically, what this thing is it's a sampling drum machine. It's inspired by a sampler from the past, and yeah. So you've been working on this thing for how long now? About a year?
Well, behind the scenes, a couple of months before that. So let's say a year
Oh
and
yeah.
6 months. But first off, shouldn't you thank me for being on the show?
No, not at all. This is actually I want to
Okay.
what's the opposite of thanking? No. Uh, so yeah, I'm really gonna sidestep that one, and just go straight into some gear stuff here because man, there's a lot to cover. So first thing I want to talk about is some of the software updates that have been going on behind the scenes. Now,
Yeah, loads, right?
yeah, I mean, a few of the beta units are out in the public. Okay, some of the
Yeah.
early beta units. Basically, the way that these
Yeah.
kinds of projects work is
There's four of those out there right now.
yeah. So there's four of these units out in the wild right now, and it usually starts out. You have the direct creation team working on it, and then it goes out to a select group of testers who are going to kind of who are experienced testers, experienced in these sorts of things, and then after that, then it's going to go out to even more testers.
Yeah.
So in the last I want to say month or so, it seems like, man, the coding is just like going
Yeah.
exponentially up, and there's been a huge amount of improvements going on.
Yeah.
Just everything from some expected things that we want to see to unexpected things. And one of the unexpected things you did a video on, which was the TR sequencer.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that even came to be, and what your thoughts are about doing step style sequencing on the S2400?
Well, I have to be honest. So much of this stuff becomes a blur on, when the genesis of these ideas came in or not, because I feel like the TR style sequencing was something that was always there, in my mind at least, because I'm not really one for writing out lots of documentation and reviews. I kind of do stuff on
I've
the fly.
noticed.
Yeah, but then I look back at the original prototype, and it only had the pads there. It didn't have all of these small buttons across the top. So obviously I hadn't had that idea by then. But that's been there for a while, because of things like looper pedal mode, so to speak, and stuff like that. I knew that I needed these small pads there, and also originally for mute and solo. And I think once I put those buttons there and then sort of looked at it and counted, oh wow, there's 16 of those buttons. They could be, they would lend themselves well to TR style sequencing, step sequencing. That's what we did, so it's there now. There's going to be lots of video updates coming soon. I'm sort of converting half this garage into a bit more of a professional setup to start demoing stuff like that. Because there's been a few people as well on the Facebook pages and stuff. Oh, what? Hang on, wow, we got TR style sequencing. So it makes me acutely aware of the ideas that they're in my head. So I kind of half tell myself that everyone else knows about those ideas as well at the same time, but they don't, obviously. So yeah, there's going to be loads of videos on stuff like that. Of those features coming soon.
Yeah, and you did have like a quick video on that kind of stuff, and even since then there's been some improvements to it. You know, just like trace lighting and that sort of thing. You
Yeah.
know, just usability things, and
Yeah.
I assume that this stuff is just going to kind of continue to improve, which is nice. Along with that, though, comes the idea that the casing as a whole
Yeah.
is changing fairly dramatically as far as what's going on with the silkscreen. Um,
Yeah. No. The casing isn't changing.
no, the
Just
silkscreen.
Yeah. Well, it already has changed as of a couple of weeks ago. It's just that these prototypes that we're using, or these were, let's say these were the pre-production prototypes. There's one more, just one, because they're actually on the lines now. So one more unit is coming to me with the final silkscreen, which, as you already know, basically what it does is just does away with the text that was on the top row of buttons, which from the original unit, the text that was on the top row dealt with specific song mode functions, which is all well and good, but considering that we've got a much larger screen and many more buttons for all sorts of different functions, they kind of make themselves redundant. And so me and one of the developers sort of sat down and was like, hey, look, the stuff that you go to stuff all the time, that you're going to be wanting to go to, all the time, we're better served to put those functions there across the top row, rather than song mode related stuff that's just going to be in there anyway. We've got either dedicated buttons for it, or it's one click away on the encoder. So it's a step away from the original, or at least it's a step away from song mode on the original. But I think in terms of workflow, it's a huge improvement.
Yeah. These are more minor things about the silkscreen, but it's sleeker. Like just how it looks. So one of the things that you have on here, the assign button, which will be changed to shift.
Shift. Yeah.
Is
I don't know what I was thinking when I was like assign. I think maybe that was just sort of me being in a design phase, being just trying to be different.
Well,
let's call it assign.
and as it's as the firmware is kind of evolving, we're seeing that, like, oh, okay, well, this workflow works with this and that workflow works with that. So like certain button placements are getting kind of jostled around a little bit to see what's more ergonomic and what works with your workflow and that kind of thing. So that makes sense. Yeah. But one of the aspects of that I personally like, and I'll switch to the overhead here. One of the aspects that I personally like is this is gone. Like
yeah.
It just
see. This is stuff that from a design perspective, because again, it's me that did all the graphic design, and I'm maybe not necessarily a UX designer and stuff like that. But it was things that really the unit needed to be out of here and into your guys, you and Sunshine and the other test guys' hands, before little quirks like that became apparent. It's like, hey, it'd be much better if if it looked like this.
Yep.
And they're just not things that I necessarily saw until a couple of those units
that, like,
were out.
A fresh pair of eyes, or because if you're staring at the design screen all day, it's like when you master your own music, you should always send it out to somebody else to master your music. It's
exactly. I took it all as a personal insult when you told me about it, and I cried for a few days.
I reveled in it, actually. Oh my God, let me tell you about how I drank your tears. They were so delicious. So one of the other minor change, well, I guess not minor, but interesting changes is, so those step buttons along the top row here, these are actually currently on this model, you'll see they're actually level with the pads. But on the production units, these are going to be lowered down, sunk down.
Yeah, we've recessed them. We've recessed them 1.5 millimeters, which doesn't really sound like anything. But if you're just there fingering the pads, they're just offset a little bit, so they're a separate. By a soft touch that they're a separate entity.
Yeah, and in truth, I've never once accidentally triggered those pads, but it just kind of, like, it's one of those things when it's sitting in front of you, you're like, oh, that would kind of make sense, And so it was nice.
Well, it was actually one of your suggestions. Is that you were trying to squeeze that statement?
I prefer to. I think you froze a little bit here. Hopefully everybody can see that Brad froze and that I didn't freeze. And that makes me better than Brad. So
What happened then? Everything
you
went offline.
you froze, proving once again that I'm better. So, but yes, of course, I'm trying to pull out as many compliments towards myself as possible.
Yeah.
That's actually the point.
Well,
of the
it's your channel, so it's your prerogative.
So let's talk about some of the other things that have been going on with the development here. The lo-fi aspect of this thing. And I don't even know that that's going to be like a final name or anything, because there's potential for a lot of things here, and technically.
Yeah, we keep going backwards and forwards between lo-fi and classic mode. If you remember, some of the viewers might not be old enough to remember the transition between Mac OS 9 and Mac OS 10. If you remember, everything was called fucking classic mode then, and it was, I don't know. Yes, we'll see. It's either going to be classic or lo-fi.
So one of the aspects about that I wanted to bring up is because I see it get asked a lot in the groups and the forums and whatnot, is people ask like, oh, well, does it do 24-bit and does it do 12 and this, that, and the third, and how does it do it? Does it do it? Can you do it per pad and this and that? And it's actually deeper than that, because not only can you have it per pad, because that's your playback, right? You can do it playback engine, and you can do it sample engine, and then you can do it stereo, and you can do it mono.
Yes, and we can use the replication of the original analog input filtration circuitry, which is on our board, or you can bypass that as well.
And that we're talking about both input and output. And that's separate, like meaning you can do the input analog circuitry and not have the output analog, or you could have the output analog on. And I think that's actually really fun to mess with. Some of the things that are different about this is that obviously because it's a more modern instrument, you can load things quicker. You can now load complete kits like in an instant, which is really cool. And we already have a few that are.
And as you've seen, you can also, when you're flitting through, if you're browsing, going through the preview dialog, just browsing through a folder of samples, it will play them within a few milliseconds of you landed on the sample. It will start playing that sample for you.
Oh, that was a sample there, but I just wanted to kind of show this. Well,
I really wish you'd sorted frame rate out, mate. But
I tried to sync the frame rate, and it just did not care about
Kennedy's VHS recorder there.
Well, that's everybody's all about that lo-fi. But yes, I just wanted to show. Like, I'm just scrolling through a folder of some internal sounds here. I should also note that this green knob is not a factory knob, so don't worry about that.
I'll show you the factory knob, actually.
Oh, that is so dirty.
There we go.
Balls.
I think most of the users most of the followers have already seen the factory knobs, but what we'll actually be providing are knobs that match.
I saw it in your hand yet. I don't think I've seen your new knob in your hand yet.
So there.
Nope, over that way. There you go.
So it's a solid aluminium turned knob.
Back up just a hair. There you go.
So it's knurled on the sides, the same as all of the rest of the knobs that are on there. It's just that some of these parts have been made custom, so they come from different countries at different times. So I've not. But yeah, it won't be going out with some pukey green Chemflux Pierce knob.
So that's definitely they say that my vocals are lower. All right, well, let me get real up on the mic for a minute. I can push that. Okay, that's probably a little bit better. Yeah, so what else did we want to check out on the as far as updates are concerned? There was so much that I'm trying to like run through in my brain what all has changed since last time.
Something that is reasonably important that I need to get out there, which will be in my next update video, but we should talk about it. Maybe you can, because they won't see your screen anyway, but we have actually had to impose our first limitation.
Okay.
And I'll go through the reasons for that. But if you go into sampling mode on your machine and press the help key, which is for you 0 at the moment,
I'm already in there.
Scroll down that text, you'll see some limitations on sample times.
So I can actually probably let me see if I can do this real quick. We'll see if this works. So if
it ships the first week of October, guys. Yeah. So because I haven't got my unit powered up, so I'm relying on Ken and his.
Yeah, this frame rate sucks.
Yeah, it really does, dude.
I know, right?
So anyway, in a nutshell, let me explain something, because one of the biggest questions I get, the most common questions that I get is, how long can this thing sample time? How long's the sample time on this thing? And my usual response is, well, it just completely depends. There's no limit. It depends on the size of your SD card. Okay, so that is now no longer completely true. And I'll go through the reasons why. So we've got, if you're looking at that screen now, we've got 4 different time limits on your sample size. If you want to sample a lo-fi in mono, you can sample a contiguous sample for 21 minutes and 31 seconds. That's come on. Who wants to sample for that long anyway? Stereo in lo-fi mode, 10 minutes and 45 seconds. If you want to sample at hi-fi mode, which is 24-bit, 48 kilohertz, you've got 11 minutes and 39 seconds. And again, in stereo at hi-fi, that turns into 5 minutes. So that 5 minutes and 50 seconds. So almost 6 minutes at the highest quality sample rate. And that doesn't matter how big your card is. That's just how long you can do a single shot sample for. The reasons that we've had to put this in place are because we moved to a visual sample edit window on the screen, being able to display waveform. And moreover than that is that we've got 64 megabytes of RAM on the machine. And so when we drop into sample mode, all of that RAM is freed up for sampling. But if you then want to go in once you've recorded that sample and you want to scoot all the way back, scoot all the way to the forward or jump around anywhere in that waveform and start doing some truncation, we'd have to do real clever read forward, read backward buffering to use a 64 megabyte window in the sample editor that you wanted to truncate. So we had to make the decision to be able to just handle everything in memory at once without having to access the SD card and bring in delays and read-write problems and stuff like that. We've locked it down to the maximum sample quality rate is just under 6 minutes. Now that's a whole song. Personally, I don't know. People might be like, no. But personally, I don't think I've ever wanted to sample something for a contiguous sample for 6 minutes, 5 minutes and 50 seconds. So there's a limit there. And
you know that's how all the hottest songs are made today, though, right?
Well, I don't give a shit. What I will say is it's better than 10 seconds. A
little bit.
But like I said, there is also no limit on the amount of samples and that you store on the card. That's governed by your card. And as I've said, I've been testing with a 1 terabyte card here, so there's that. But if you want to sample directly into the machine at the highest quality, and I get the feeling that a lot of these guys want to sample in at the lo-fi, crunchy, OG format. And if you want to do that, you've got like 20 minutes of sample time compared to the original 10 seconds. There you go. There's the first limitation that we've had to impose, and I hope you're all right with it. I'm not giving you a refund if you're not.
So one of the big differences here with the way that this thing works versus an OG unit is obviously the fact that you have that longer sample time. Some of the things that I'm personally a little bit curious about, and this is going to kind of evolve as the firmware kind of comes together even more, is just moving samples around and how the saving is done. As of right now, you're able to pretty quickly store your samples. Have you looked into naming and that sort of thing? Or you as far as like how you're going to name and then toss a sample to a folder, is that all going to be external, or are you going to be able to save to the internal as well?
Sorry, can you refactor that question, because I didn't quite understand what you meant.
Well, basically, what I'm
In
asking
terms of
about is
naming
the
your
file.
samples.
Yeah, file structure of your samples. So naming and where you can save to. So what are you limited to as far as how you're going to handle that?
Right. Okay. Yes. Some of that is still open to refactoring, but at the moment, which is actually what we're working on right now, is now we've got reasonably feature complete basic operating system. We're working on save now, so that's save project, save kit, save samples as well, which you can already do. So when you are in a project and you do some recordings, they're going to get saved in the project. Similarly, if you were to fill up the buffer with a 64 megabyte sample, you might want to be trimming the sides off, or just using this little section. So when you save that thing, you'll be able to, you'll be choosing to save the whole thing that you just recorded, or just a little slice that you've just perfected with your start and end points. So yeah, we've already got naming of patterns, which will obviously be saved. Coming on from that will be the naming of projects that you save. And so, yeah, naming of individual samples as well. And that will the sampling, obviously, as you know yourself, that you and the rest of the testing team only got sampling today.
Yep.
So I've had a few days to play around with it, and we've fixed quite a few bits before you guys have got it. And then, so yeah, you've got the early doors version of that now, and there's still some.
And just to clarify what that means for people that aren't used to testing, what that means is, like, so you might be asking, like, well, how was he doing beats on it previous if there wasn't sampling? That doesn't mean that there isn't sample playback and sample load. That stuff is already there, and that stuff we were already working with. But
that's something we should address as well, is because there was a couple of people surprised the other day when I made a joke about including.
Oh man, he's freezing again. Man, he left us on a cliffhanger actually. So let's see how long this takes for him to get back. And in the meantime, I'm gonna. Oh, here he comes. Yeah. I don't know what you're doing over there, but you're gonna have to cut that Florida crap out.
It's probably my daughter upstairs watching FGTV. Dad.
I think your internet's got COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, so I made a joke the other day on Facebook saying that U2 reached out and asked if we'd include their latest album on the internal flash memory. That was just a joke, but there were some legitimate questions. There was a couple of people that was like, what internal sounds and flash? So yeah, there is.
Can I dive into a little bit of that and just kind of?
There's a 2 gigabit internal flash chip inside the machine. Okay, irrespective of whether you've got an SD card in there or not, there are internal factory sounds which can't be overwritten by the user, but there'll be a plethora of kits, and that's from you, from like I know Kenny Dope, Gold Baby, who does amazing drum kits and stuff. There's Michael Trance. There's a load of great guys that are going to be supplying some kits and samples that are going to be stored inside the machine, whether you've got an SD card or not. So yeah, demos that you've seen so far, then the machine since almost day dot has been able to load WAV files in directly from the SD card. But yeah, so you can load things in from the SD card. You can use the samples that are built onto the internal flash memory, or you can sample in your own.
Yep. So yeah, and I just wanted to clarify on that is that so people might be wondering, well, how is Flux getting that crunchy sound, this, that, and the third? Because I had seen comments on some of my Instagram videos, and
it's so authentic, mate, with your sound, and yeah.
it was actually all just Decimort. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, actually, what it was is so I was doing a few different things. For instance, I would load samples in, and I would have them pitched up. So I would have a clean sample that was pitched up, then I would put it into the S2400 and then pitch it back down, just like I would from vinyl. So that way I could test out, okay, how is this thing working? How is the pitch algorithms working? Because there's actually multiple different pitch algorithms in this as well. Yeah. It's not just the classic, 16 and 32. You actually have semitones on here now. So there's the ability to do scales. And
diatonic.
Yeah, the original. If you switch between a, let me see if I can. Here we go.
I just want to address someone in the chat as well. That's Delptronics. He has said a maximum of 2.5 seconds. No, I think you misunderstood the technicalities of what I said there, Delptronics. We've got a 64 meg buffer. So as you saw me run down the maximum sample times of what we can do with what that 64 meg holds, there's the 4 different degrees of the maximum sample time. So definitely not 2.5 seconds. The maximum being 20 odd minutes and the minimum being 5 minutes and 50 seconds at the highest sample rate. So I hope that clears that up for you.
I think I have some Delptronic modules in my Euro rack.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, but anyway, what I wanted to say about that was just as a kind of for instance about this thing is when you have samples that you're working with, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the fact that you can sample hi-fi, lo-fi, mono, or stereo, but then you also have different methods of playback. And with my choppy frame rate, you can see here I have lo-fi here, and then I can also turn it off.
And you got purple as well.
I do have purple, I'm trying to honor some prints.
You can sample in purple.
You can sample in purple. So, point being is that, so like this is just this is actually a sample that I recorded off of my Rhodes. And if let's go ahead and into pitch here. Now, granted, I'm going to say this first and foremost, okay, before we even get into me showcasing any kind of sound. This is streaming over StreamYard to YouTube.
No, don't worry about the streaming, but I'm going to be.
It is extremely low. It is extremely low quality, so don't freak out about that. But I'm trying to illustrate something here. So basically, if you have your pitch, right? So the sample is already a little bit lo-fi, but then the S2400 is doing its thing. But then when I turn on the lo-fi mode of sample playback, it really gets gritty. So this, as opposed to, hold on, this. So you can hear how the.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
And also part of that revered sound is also then running that through a different output channel and making sure that you have the original analog circuitry for the output filters turned on or off.
Now,
which is important to a lot of people.
One of the things about that I can show here is like if you go to channel settings, and before I this is super early stuff. So all these menus are likely going to change. There's going to be more information. Information might be moved to different places. Be aware of that. And then you can change. So you'll see here we have your individual channel filters are here. You've got your dynamic filters 1 and 2, and then you have your fixed filters. These are all analog, okay? So these are all 100% the analog filters of the machine, and they duplicate what was in an SP1200, except it's stereo.
Yeah, it's going to directly answer Napalm 1334's question there. Yeah.
What's that?
Just carry on.
Okay, fair enough. And then of course you have your mix pan for those individual areas as well. And then where was I at? Let me back out of here. And we'll go here. We'll go to global real quick. And then of course you have your different settings here. So you can actually change your colors. You can even change the sleep color. One of the things
Can you zoom out on the? Can you zoom out on the machine? Because there's someone there. Yeah, that's it. Asking what pad color is.
Okay, yeah. So you can set this little strip right here. You can change the individual colors of these, and you can turn it off if you're.
Do it live so they can see it.
I don't want to do that. I want to make people cry. All right, so if you go down here, you can change the color. See this purple pad?
All of the other pads have dimmed.
Look, you can make it go dark. Can you believe that? So you can
that's your
crying.
turning off. That's your turning off the pad if you want to.
Yeah. So stop crying about colors, because colors are actually very helpful. So yeah, if you want to like have all your kicks be red and then have like melodic samples be purple, like which I had done,
now move the faders while you're over the color selection. You can actually go there and fine tune the color if you want with the fader, so that you've got your full RGB palette there. No. The thing is with colors, and a lot of people don't get it, and that's fine. And like you've just demonstrated, you can turn it off. The thing is with the colors is, you might want all of your percussion pads to be green. You might want all of your lower frequency content to be orange. To give you at a glance feedback on what you're doing. If you don't like it, you can turn it off. They can also, you could have, because there's 4 banks. You could have bank A is green, bank B is, it's just everything at a glance, quick feedback. But if you don't like the colors, turn them off.
Exactly. So that's just something that's useful, especially if you're setting up a performance and you have different songs doing different things. It's very useful to have like, okay, I know all my kicks are going to be red. I know all my snares are going to be yellow. That sort of thing. Yeah, it's just a helpful thing, and you can shut it off if you don't want to. I will say that the way that the pads glow, it's not like crazy bright. It doesn't glare out at you or anything. Like if you wear glasses like Brad and I, it's not a thing where like LED glare is an issue or anything like that. They're, I wouldn't say they're muted, but they're like it's almost like frosted.
Yeah. So I've got 20/20 vision. This is just a pair of empty frames.
You're just out there looking good, right?
Just the hip stuff.
I have crappy vision, so but the alcohol helps. So I'm scrolling back through here and looking at some of these questions real quick. Oh, so let's talk about shipments. Can we talk about delivery of the hardware that you will be using to deliver to customers?
Yeah. So. As I said in an update, which most people know if they follow the things, first week of October, the unit should start shipping. So obviously they get to me a little bit before that. Gives me a couple of weeks to start that. The units are arriving to me around about 80% assembled. And that's only because I have the parts here and they weren't over with my contract manufacturer. I have to put the screen on, the knobs on. I have to put these silicon pads on because they come from a different place. But other than that, the thing will arrive reasonably assembled in a shipping box. And as most people have probably seen, because I've already done it shown them on Instagram. But aside from that, and these will actually be arriving in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully. But I announced, I'm working in the opposite direction to the camera. I announced the rather sexy cases that I got sorted out, and these are like waterproof. Waterproof custom cut cases for the machine as well. Can you see that?
Yep, see it good.
See it? I don't know what way I'm supposed to move to get in front of the camera. But yeah, these nice waterproof cases as well. So they're going to be here in time for shipping, which I'm much more comfortable, especially the ones that are going overseas.
Did you figure out the pricing yet, or is that still something that's kind of like you're
I
working
will
out
know
the
that.
logistics?
I will know that by Monday.
Okay, cool.
The biggest factor in that is whether I can get the cases shipped in the same container as the rest of everything else.
Oh, that would be nice.
Meaning the drum machines. If I can get them shipped over all in the same container, it's the shipping that's the killer with a lot of stuff. So if they can come in the same container, meaning I get the cases made, the cases get shipped to my contract manufacturer, and the contract manufacturer either puts as many of these machines in those cases as they can and then puts them in the container, or just puts those in the container with these and they all come together, is obviously cheaper than me doing two separate shipments.
Yeah, and I can tell you from personal experience, that's pretty much what I use for like all my major drum machines that are worth a damn. You know, I mean, like if you're going to be traveling and doing shows and stuff, you should definitely have a nice case.
I was originally looking at like flight cases, like like the Anvil type ones that we'd all have for our 1200s.
Yeah.
I've lost you.
Gosh darn it! I'm telling you, it's that Rona. His internet's got the Rona. But it's okay. He'll probably be back in just a second here. But yeah, so these cases are going to be. Oh, there he is. Look at him.
Yeah,
oh, you did it just so you could sneak a drink.
Yeah,
you think you're better than me, huh? You think you're better than me? I see.
Martel. So that's another one that's caused a bit of confusion, Martel, to be honest. So obviously, for everyone that's pre-ordered a machine, I've already got your details. What I intend to do is I'll put them on the site listing for sale. But what I'll also do is email you guys, probably previously. It's going to make the shipping cost. Obviously, you'll have to pay for the case, but the shipping cost will increase a little bit. It'll be worked out. I'm just going to, as long as you've already got an outstanding order, then the shipping won't be as much as someone that's coming on to buy one with a case. You know what I'm saying, right?
Sort of.
Yeah. The people that have already bought an S2400 that are going to want a case aren't going to want to pay a shit ton of shipping because they've already paid for shipping for their S2400. But obviously it's going to cost, it's not so much if you're in a domestic USA, but for overseas, because it's more based on weight, then there will be a bit of an increase in the shipping costs.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all optional again. Just to clarify,
yeah, nobody has to buy these cases.
Optional.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the main things here is that
there's... And I also should say that we have had proper custom cardboard packaging made for the S2400. That is quite capable to be shipped overseas. It's double wall cardboard, 2-ply cardboard. It's not going to be a flimsy box with foam inserts. So it's going to survive an international shipment. Of course it is. Because I don't want loads of bashed up S2400s fucking ending up on my doorstep, do I? So no, there's shipping boxes. It's for the people that want the nice touring case or the extra sexiness. It's there.
So yeah, let's just dive in a little bit further onto how this thing is operating, and hopefully what's going to happen when people do take delivery of their units. Sometime in the around October-ish, field of vision. The aspect of this thing right now, because we had talked like a while ago about all these other features and whatnot, but clearly, like it's a large development task. So you want to focus on, you want to focus on getting it out the door and making sure that it's solid first, right? So, what's kind of like the mentality of the unit right now, as far as like what you want users to experience from this thing? Like, what's the kind of workflow mindset that you envision?
Well, that hasn't really changed from the start. I think we all know what I set out to do.
Yeah, but not everybody's watched like the first interviews and whatnot. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to recap.
yeah. Well, the original idea was well, the original idea really started out as a clone because everyone wanted one, but that it evolved into something somewhat of a what I felt was like a 21st century, or as other people have dubbed it, spiritual successor. So everything that we wanted from the original, with modern treats that we're all used to, extended sampling time, SD card, uh, all of the extra stuff. Pretty much everything. I don't think there's not much that I didn't say that it was going to do that it's not going to do on its initial ship date. Again, of course, there's going to be firmware updates. There is absolutely no way that you can cover every single little thing that people won't find some quirks or find some bugs. I'm pretty certain it's impossible. And you can take some pretty big companies that have a history of just fucking rolling a product out.
I don't think we want to go down that route.
Realizing that there's loads of shit wrong, and rather than just doing firmware updates, they just say, "Oh fuck it, you can buy Mark II," right? So I'm pretty confident, and you know what? I'm proud and happy, especially in my development team, that initially said, "We're cutting it pretty fine if you think we're going to get this out in the first release." But a lot of that stuff that they said we weren't going to get, we've already got. And a lot of that now is just a case of just fine tweaking and everything. There are some things I would have liked to have been in the first release. Things like time stretching, maybe some effects. And that's not to say we won't have effects in the first release. I'm riffing.
Sure.
There are some things that might not be in, that are likely not to be in the first firmware release. As I said, time stretching, and some other things that I know people ask about a lot. People constantly ask me about P-locks and stuff like this, and I have to be really honest here. And that's not to say that we're not going to do that, because we might if we get put under enough pressure. But I have to say, if you want that stuff, that was not my idea of having parameter locks and that level
overly complicated sequencing.
That was not the genesis of my idea. The genesis of this was going back to basics on all of that fucking really awesome music that was made in the 90s, because this machine was so accessible from a user perspective. It was just so natural to use it. You start piling on 3 different shift functions for every key and key combinations and all of that crap. It starts detracting away from sitting in front of the box and banging out some beats real quickly.
So just to cut you off, because that's what I like doing.
Pretty rude, because I hadn't finished, but okay.
Yeah, I know, and I'm going to let you get back to that. But I want to speak to the idea of the of the whole P-lock thing and the whole automation thing and all that, because like there are certain things that can make sense for it, but for the most part, what I'll say is from making like just kind of exploring it and making some music on it, there are certain drum machines and certain samplers that I personally have that when you get on them, your style of music making, like it's still your sound, but the paintbrush changes the way. So like if you paint in a paintbrush with watercolor, it's going to look different than if you start, using charcoal or something, Yeah. And
exactly.
That's kind of what I found on this thing, is that when I'm working on it, I keep things very basic. I keep things very true. And the end result, you're just like, well, damn, like I didn't even have to do that much, and it just sounds dope. Like, yeah. and you start remembering, if you're old like I am, like you start remembering, oh man, like this is how I was making beats before. Except now it's like 10 times faster, and there's way less head scratching of like, why is this not working this time? And this disc is just sitting there clicking, and that sort of thing.
Now listen, Napalm, I'm not dogging on Electron or anyone like that. Don't get twisted, okay? When I said about not having P-locks and stuff like that, from my subjective opinion, I set out to design a device that was going back to an older workflow. Okay, so it's great that loads of modern devices have P-locks and all these intricate functions. It's absolutely amazing. Go buy Electron's products because that's what they do, and that's fantastic. I love those guys. I love their videos. Everything they do is amazing. I'm not trying to dog on anyone's products because mine doesn't do that. It's not intended to do that. So go grab that stuff if that's what you want. But the point I'm trying to make is this: the whole ethos with this thing is going back to a much more hands-on, simple approach.
These things are cool.
No, I know they are. Electron stuff is absolutely amazing. No, they're they're trailblazers, man, for everything.
No, they absolutely are. They absolutely
are trailblazers.
And I will I'll totally agree with you though. Like, you know, like it's a situation where it's like, not every day do you want to paint with this style tool, you know? And for me, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Like my Rhythm MK2 sits in the case more times than it doesn't, but when it comes out, it's freaking amazing and it blows my mind. Yeah. The Tempest is kind of the same way. Like, I have the Tempest. Yeah. I love that thing. Yeah. You know, when I work on it, I do specific things. My 2000 XL is like what I cut my teeth on, and that thing stays over here, but it's like when you get on it, you make a certain style of music on it. I feel the same way about this thing, is that when I get on it, like, I have a mindset. Like, I'm not going to overthink things. I'm going to go for a certain sound quality that I truly enjoy, and the workflow is just there. Like,
the more faders, bells and whistles and stuff that are added to an instrument, and this is just subjective from my opinion, and that might be because I'm not as forward, as adaptive when I'm trying to make music. I think all of my gear that I own, that I've made my best shit on, has been the simplest fucking gear to use, right? Because you're there, this piece of gear does that job. You know what it does, and you're not reading a novel to figure out how to do something. So that's my angle. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, it doesn't do this, and it doesn't do that, and it doesn't do that, and it doesn't do that. It's not supposed to do that. A TR909 or a TR808, as loved as it is, doesn't really do a lot, does it? But what it does really well. So that's more my approach to stuff.
The one of the coolest samplers that I'm like absolutely in love with these days is the Pocket Operator KO.
Yeah, right.
That thing, it doesn't do everything. It's very basic. And it's so damn inspiring. Like, it's super inspiring to just work on that. And because
it forces the creativity out of you to when you have constraints and confinements, you're like, okay, right, how can I do the best that this machine can do? And when it's that simple to use and you get a sense of empowerment over the machine, not a sense of the machine overpowering you, that's when you do your best shit.
Yeah, and I think it's this thing where it's like, so I love Machine, right? Machina. And, I worked on that thing, I poured my heart and soul into that project, And I got to say, though, there's something about working in software that makes you keep saying, well, we're in software with unlimited resources. Give me more, give me more, give me more, yeah. Right? Yes, I could do this weird workaround to get to this like I would if I was on, this hardware, but I'm not on hardware. Give me more, fix this for me, fix this for me. And you get into this cyclic mindset of like, okay, well, if it doesn't do it, then it's a problem with it, not a problem with me, and it should just do it, and that's what I'm going to yell and scream about. And trust me, I'm that dude. Like, I will do that all day long, right? But then when you come back to certain hardware, it's like you come back to hardware of your past, you're like, I'm comfortable in the skin that I'm in. I'm comfortable in this world, and this is how I'm going to work. And you know what? If I have to bend the matrix a little bit inside of that world, I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. And that's what I kind of found myself doing with this thing. I'm like, oh man, like just the fact that you're back to using faders, right? It's such like a thing that you would think, oh, well, a fader is the same as a knob. I mean, technically the data is, right? But it's not. Like, when you're actually using the stuff, you're just like, man, it's such an interesting, I like to think of it as like most of the samplers and stuff that we use today kind of evolved from the MPC, right? And this is like this dystopian weird future. Like it's evolving the opposite direction, and it's so cool to see. So like when I start using it and I start creating on it, I'm like, oh man, like this is where I would be had that stuff not evolved in that direction and it went this way instead, and this is how I'm working with it. Like it's just nerdy fun.
Why don't you give us a little demo on the machine, because I've really got to take a leak.
Well, I'll do some stuff for some people. I'll do some stuff for some people, and I'm going to show a couple of things. So first off, what I'm going to show everybody is this. So a track mode is for us 80s babies. So if you know what this is from, yeah, man, that's there's like all these little things like this that just kind of like you're just like, yeah, this is for us old heads, which is fine. You know, it's. I have a strong feeling that if you are like an SP404 user, you're going to really dig this thing too, because like Brad said, like while the effects and stuff are not there like a 404, it's about that basic workflow, which is really dope. So let's see what we got here too. I'm just gonna show you some basic things here. So if I go here, if I hit shift, which is called assign on mine, and I guess I can make this a single screen, right? You'll see it says load kit. I can just click. So this select knob right here, I'll move this over a little bit so you can see it. And I still have the Beat People logo up on here, which I guess I shouldn't have, but whatever. It's all same, right? Let's take that out of here. Okay. So anyway, this is a push button encoder, okay? So we can push this to select things, and right now it says internal here, and then it says SD card here. Obviously the flashing is from my camera up above. It is what it is. Deal with it. Martel, he literally just got done explaining to you what was going on with the effects and that there may be effects in the future. Gotta listen to what we're saying in here. So anyway, I'm gonna go here to internal, and then you'll see we have a bunch of kits in here. These are the early test kits in here, and I'm loading a kit that I created for it, and you'll see that right away I have. And sorry, you're gonna hear some reverberation from my mic.
Show us some waveform views as well.
No. So the first thing I want to do here is go into assign, and you're going to see that you have a bunch of different settings in here. So when you assign to a pad, you've got the sample name, you've got the channel, and that's important because you can dictate what channel it's coming out of. And at first that might not seem like a big deal, but it actually is a big deal for a bunch of different reasons. And some of this stuff might change, some of it might not, but I'm going to go over how it is right now. Currently, you have 8 tracks, okay? And because you have 8 tracks, think of it...
Channels.
What's that?
Channels.
8 channels, whatever.
You've got 32 tracks.
32 tracks, 8 channels, okay? So basically what that means is that if you have 32 sounds, but you're only going through 8 channels, it's going to, copy over top of things. Shadow Ghost sucks, so there's that. And... yeah, so we can adjust the channel setting here for the individual tracks. So if you feel like something's cutting something off from a bank here and you want it on a different channel, you can change that there. Or you can also use that in the channel settings. You can actually change the analog filters on and off, which is what I'm going to show you now. So let's take a listen to this snare, and then I'm going to turn the analog filter on. So here's this, right? And then I'm going to go here to settings. Go to channel settings. We're going to go to channel 2. Turn this on. And you'll hear how it instantly gets darker. And that's the analog filter on there. And then, of course, you can assign any of these tracks, through the various banks to go through whichever filter you want, okay? So let's go back out of here. You can also see on the screen here, your faders are actually displayed right here. I'm in pitch mode right now, so... Right, and then of course I can go back to assign here, and I can turn lo-fi off. So... And then we can also change how those faders function for us as well. We can go into global settings and go to pitch res, right? So that's your pitch resolution, which you can't really read it on this video, but whatever. So right now it's on semitones. I can turn that to diatonic, fine pitch, classic 1632, and there's possibility for more modes, but for now this is what's in here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to diatonic, and I want to show, if I come back out of here and I go to, so again, back on this sample here of that Rhodes, I can actually, because the original sample is a C, you'll notice that it's going to follow scale, which is pretty nice. And you can hear how it's going to ring through there. So Brad's back. I'm gonna hop out of here because I don't like doing audio demos in a live stream because it makes no damn sense. Okay, but that's like some basic functionality stuff of working through menus and whatnot on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on, I gotta turn this camera back on. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
So yeah, just a little bit on those when you were demoing those channels, turning the analog filters on and off. As the original, they're 1-for-1 replicas of the original circuit, so they're not adjustable filters. Obviously, we have got adjustable filters that are there in DSP, and the add-on filter cards will come after the fact. But when you turn on those filters per channel on a per channel basis, what they're doing is just electronically switching the signal through a fixed filter that's on the board already, that's analog. Yeah, and that's using the SSI 2144 chip, which is a modern-day replica of the original solid-state microelectronics. Mm-hmm. Solid-state microelectronics 2044 filter.
Yeah, and just to clarify about that, because we keep getting questions about it, and I guess we can kind of touch a little bit on this, even though there's not much going on that front right now. So it's a replication of the same analog circuitry that goes on in an SP1200, but modernized for a stereo signal path. Yeah. And then there's the option for down the road of the daughter card situation.
Yes.
Now
that daughter card also won't necessarily just be. I've got loads of ideas for that, but we got to walk before we can run.
Exactly.
So, there are different filter chips out there. There are the Curtis filters. There are the obviously the SSM filters. But we've got full control. Basically, inside the machine, what we've got is a breakout connector, which is essentially an insert path for every single channel, for all 8 channels. So. It wouldn't be a million miles away to think that we can include, and we've also got digital control broken out to that same connector, SPI and everything going there. So we can. It wouldn't be a million miles away to think we can have a complete DSP card that has loads of other effects on it and stuff like that. So there's that. First we got to get the machine out, yeah.
And Balsa Koba was asking about the top functions. We kind of already went over that in the at the top of the show, but basically the real crux of it is that
I'm not vaping THC. Jesus Christ! Oh, man. No, I gave up smoking really at the start of the pandemic, and this isn't great. But I'm not smoking cigarettes.
Did you want to talk about the eyedropper of LSD or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Oh, that's on
you
my end.
You honestly think I'd be
Sorry.
capable of talking to you if I was doing that?
Okay, so
I am a lizard king.
The top row of buttons basically was changing because there's operating systems that are different, and really it just wasn't needed to have that same data from kind of the old design method.
They were song mode functions, and really they were just stuff that lended themselves essential really when you only had 2 lines of 16 characters on an LCD, and we've got a lot more than that, and we've got maybe that's something I would like you to show on a screen if you can, is if you've got a pattern loaded, or you can use the basic pattern that's burnt into the OS there, is because we've got graphical step edit. in a linear timeline fashion. So because of that, especially when we're in song mode, a lot of those buttons just aren't necessary. We can do that stuff.
I just saw an Easter egg that got put in there.
Which Easter egg?
Well, I guess people won't know who it is.
Well, is it one of the rude ones, or
no, it wasn't. But oh man, I got to show this one. Can I show it? Yeah, the screen flickering's probably going to ruin it anyway. Who cares? But yeah, that was pretty good. Let me see if I can get it to do it again though. I got to see what it was that I did. But that was great. So yeah, the teams had some fun with this thing. So that one right
there. You should probably take that off the screen.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think if you're not in the know, then you're not gonna know, and if you're in the know, you might know. So yeah. But I thought that was pretty funny. That was great. Makes me want to eat some chicken wings. So, yeah.
These are all private jokes that no one's gonna get. So shut up.
And I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. So I have I'm like on the step here or step edit. There we go. So yeah, and I don't have the whatchamacallit loaded right now. So
whatchamacallit?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, if you change your pattern,
I don't have the proper kit.
Well, if you go to pattern 0 or go to the Ahmed break, which is on pattern 1, then you'll see. Yep. Obviously, we've got a graphical representation of the step edit patterns.
Yep.
Or so even if you just live record a pattern in.
Well, I'm trying to show you. I don't want to do too much on the spot like that.
Why? Because you're not that talented?
No, I just want to. Well, because I'm trying to do 4 different things at once. God damn it. Okay. So demanding.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So anyway, guys. So here we go. So you can see you have your actual dots here, and again, the flickering is my camera, not the screen. The screen's actually eerily clear, because it's like.
It's an OLED screen.
It's 100% contrast on there, so it's like you're looking at it, and it's
OLED, so yeah, it's got a very good viewing angle on it.
Yeah, it's really quite dope.
So what Ken's doing there is he's moving the encoder backwards and forwards throughout the timeline, and so if he's in step edit mode and record edit is turned on, wherever he moves that cursor and then presses a pad, it'll insert that note.
Exactly.
And while you're there, Ken, if you press F1 or F3, it will zoom in and out of the pattern.
Yeah, so you're changing the quantize size there.
But you're also zooming in and out of the. You've only got a one bar pattern set up.
Exactly.
There, so
we can actually, and I can show you that real quick too. So one of the things that you can do here is you can. Oh god damn. You can copy.
You're breaking NDA by doing that. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's okay. We're fine with that. So we're gonna do. I love telling you what you're fine with. So we're gonna go from pattern 1, right? I can copy it, right, and the number of copies. So let's say I want to take that simple 1-bar pattern. I'm gonna copy it all the way over to pattern 5, and I'm going to make 2 copies of it, and then hit copy. It's going to say OK. Then I'm going to move over here to pattern 5, go to step edit, and you'll see that now it's 2 bars. All right. Yeah. So now when I play it, you'll see you've got your tracker at the bottom here and at the top, and it's just running through. So you can actually see it there, and then we can actually change the size here. There you go. So you can zoom way in.
Yeah, so you can see, if you had loads more pattern information on different tracks there, it'd be much more apparent zooming in and out.
Exactly.
But
yeah, I can let me change this.
And actually, when you land on every one of those steps with the cursor, when you move the encoder and that cursor moves to where there's an event, when you're in record edit mode, if you press record edit mode, you go and land on one of those steps. You can change the pitch, you can change any parameter and hit the pad, and that saves that parameter to that event in the step sequencer. So it's actually really powerful for doing whatever you would want to do in a step sequencer. It does what it's supposed to do.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's amazing that.
All right, well, My other camera's dead right now. I'm not going to mess with that, but we'll go ahead and end the stream because I feel like that was a good amount of information and people can kind of dive into that. One last thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is a little bit for my own personal information, is you had mentioned the possibility, or maybe not even the possibility, but maybe you were just trying to gauge interest in an external drive as an add-on. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
Talk about it.
Oh shit! See all those notifications coming from our developer now. Shut the fuck up. No.
Remember, I didn't say anything was coming. I'm not pushing you into anything.
No.
I don't want anybody hunting me down.
So the problem is with this is that it's something I want to do for not only for the kudos, because it's just great. No one's done it for 30 years, and then if we come along and do it, that's awesome. It's great. From a business standpoint, you have to weigh up the percentage of people that have got a collection of discs that they want to put their SP1200 discs in and load them into the machine. And obviously that percentage starts whittling down pretty rapidly. Now, if I'm honest, there's some guys that we've grown up loving. One of my personal heroes being Kenny Dope, since I was a teenager. And I know that, I'm sorry, dude. I know you hate me saying that because I was a teenager when you did some of the stuff I know you for. But there's all those guys like Kenny Dope, Todd Terry, DJ Muggs. There's loads of old school mainheads, Easy Moby. They've got fucking boxes full of their SP1200 discs, and they would love to load them into the machines and do something with them. Now, we've already actually reverse engineered being able to extract the sample data from discs. We've got that. Many people are under the misconception that you can just get, because we've got a USB host port on the S2400. You should just be able to buy one of those garden variety off the shelf, $8 USB floppy disk drives that you can buy on eBay. And that would be perfect, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be great? But it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, those disk drives are pre-built with a firmware that is only able to look at IBM PC formatted disks. And that IBM PC format is not the only piece. Is not the only floppy disk format out there. You've got things like Amiga, Amstrad, all of these different formats from old school retro computers that had that used floppy disks in a completely different way. They used the same Sugar floppy drive interface, but the way that they stored their sectors and stuff like that on a disk was completely different. So what we have to do is we can still make a USB peripheral, and this USB peripheral may also work on a PC as well. As a knock-on effect, it may enable a PC to be able to read those non-standard formats. But there's a lot of work involved. We'd really like to be able to also extract sequence data. That would be perfect, wouldn't it? Right? You plug our peripheral into your S2400, and it loads up the samples, and it loads up your original sequence data. You fucking hit play on the S2400, and it plays that whole project for you. That's the ultimate goal, but it will take a lot of man hours to make that reality. It's not impossible. Nothing's impossible. It's digital electronics at the end of the day. It's the amount of effort that you have to put in to make that thing happen versus the amount of people that are going to pay you for doing it. At the end of the day, you've got to be paid for the man hours that you're putting into something. For sure, we can read sample data, and we're working hard to make that a thing. It will be an add-on peripheral for the people that want it. Hopefully, enough people buy it to make it to have made it worthwhile. But also, certainly, the machine comes first and has to come out before we move on to that. Does that answer that question enough?
A little bit in detail. So,
Oh, all right. Sorry.
yeah, I was trying to go kind of like broad, like I wasn't trying to put you on the spot too bad, but
No,
whatever,
no, I
dude.
didn't. No, I didn't feel like I was on the spot because I know. We know exactly what needs to be done to do it. So we're not completely in the dark. It's not. We're not promising something that we've got no idea what we're talking about. We know exactly what needs to be done, and actually everything is there for us to do it. But even though we know what needs to be done, we know it's still going to take us a certain amount of weeks of development time to do it.
Yeah.
And that costs money, you know. And if it turns out, unfortunately, if it turns out that only like 70 people want to buy it, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
it's not worth it. But I'll probably still do it because I want to do it, and I want to do it for Kenny and Muggs and all those guys, you know.
But at that point, yeah, then you're
So I get
questioning the
invited to
price
some
point.
parties or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah. You are not allowed to party, sir. I've heard plenty of stories. No. Just no.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Is there anything else that we want to add before we close out?
Well, I'm focusing now because I feel like I've been a bit shitty with not giving updates, but that's because I've been super busy. But I bought some nice lights. I've been tidying up the workshop as now the firmware is really maturing over the next couple of weeks, and that I'll really be able to do some nice content with the progress on that. And like I said, we're not that far away from shipping now. So like we're slating the first week of October, units are going to start going out the door. Flight case was already talked about, Hip Hop Hobby Club.
Yeah, as was the 12-bit question. So there was a lot of content at the top of the stream that I'm sure plenty of people had missed out on. So feel free to head back there and check that out. DJ Kizone is asking about trackouts, and yeah, there's individual outputs on here. And
I can show you the back of the unit.
I do believe it's already been talked about where there is the capability of, as it develops further, the USB port could stream audio.
Yes. So we've got individual trackouts there. Currently, there's 8 outputs. There's a stereo mix output of which you can pan any one of those 8 individual outputs into the stereo mix bus. We've got 2 phono inputs there, which are for 2 record decks, but one of those also pairs as a line input, so you can plug a CD player into it when you're sampling. And there's also 1 through 4 there of 1/4-inch jack inputs. So we've got a total of 6 inputs, which potentially 6 inputs can simultaneously be recorded. That's not in the firmware yet, but our hardware is potentially capable of recording from 6 inputs at once, potentially. MIDI, standard MIDI. We've got clock jack in and out, which is for things like synchronizing to your Volcas or your old Juno 60. Full-size SD card. USB host port, which is so you can plug an external MIDI keyboard or something that doesn't have MIDI ports on it straight into the device. And the USB host port, as I said, will also serve things like external peripherals that we may design, things like being an external floppy drive to read in SP1200 discs. But we also might design, a classic 16 pad interface or something like that for the S2400. And then, of course, we've got the USB, just the normal USB device input, which will allow a machine like a door to control. It will handle MIDI and hopefully, or what should also handle sending piping or the S2400's audio channels back into a door.
So another question is will the $950 price point stay in the future?
No, absolutely will not stay. I really needed to increase that sooner. The extended development times have obviously cost a lot more money. I held it open because of the COVID, because of the frankly fucking crazy times that we're all living in right now.
You are not joking.
Jesus fucking Christ. Wow. Yeah. I'm holding on with that as long as I can, but the retail price for the machine is going to be somewhere around $1,500-$1,600. It was $949 currently on the website. honestly, in about a week or two, now we're in production, and the first wave is being built. I have to, I have to, for the company's sake, put an end to the fact that I've kept that pre-order price going for so long.
But I think that's also
that pre-order price was a price that I put out there over a year ago.
That's what I was going to say. That's to me, that's kind of something that I feel like a lot of people, I mean, unless you're really daft, should have expected. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, there was a very early bird price point thing. We did a very early coupon at one point. And then I had a lot of people asking me literally like a year later, hey, can I get that coupon? And I'm like, yo, we told you it was that day only. It wasn't even like I don't even think it was a week-long thing. It was like a that day thing.
Yeah, it was during your live stream. But yeah, as I said, it was that $949 price point was really a pre us getting into mass production with the thing. It was obviously I had to sell the thing much cheaper to get everyone to help us to get the thing into production. It was our own version of crowdfunding, and it worked because we're here. But at that time, we truly believed, mistakenly, but we truly believed that we'd be shipping by December. And obviously, the machine has evolved a lot from the original design that everyone thought they were getting. That was based on a $949 price point. But yeah, we've obviously way overdeveloped the machine. I can't keep that price going for much longer. I'm sorry.
So Boss is asking what the new price would be, and I would imagine that hasn't been decided.
Like I said, around $1,500 to $1,600 bucks.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
So what else do we got in here?
The SSM filter boards, and like I said, they won't just be. I'm replying to Shadow Ghost there. So one of those 8-channel boards will be SSM filters. Another one might be the CEM type filters. I don't think you can really say Curtis anymore because it's very difficult to get the Curtis chips, but they've been cloned by different manufacturers. But those boards would be an under $200 price point for most of those boards that we make. But like I said, there several different flavors of add-on boards that we do there. One of them might be DSP. I'm imagining something like a nice 8-channel Big Sky type thing. That'd be sweet, right?
And again, this is
I love the sound of that thing.
I'm going to go ahead and say this for you. And this is all speculation. This is not locked in stone sold stuff. This is Brad speculating on the stream. I'm saving him from himself.
The analog filter boards are pretty much set in stone. We just need to get this machine out, and then we can make those. But they're not a serious heartbreaker to do. But yeah, I'm just saying that we might be able to develop that into other stuff. Something that might even make coffee or some shit like that. We've got an SPI port there, so we can tell it to do whatever we want.
Yeah. So other than that, I would say just kind of keep eyes out. There's been a lot of development lately. There's still a lot more to go, and it's going to be getting really interesting in these next few weeks because this is it's kind of all getting to the point where like everybody's been waiting and everybody's like really excited about. The sound is there. Like it sounds brilliant. You can do some really cool stuff with it. It's just now at a point where it's like, okay, in a way, it's kind of cool that like the whole delay is happening, not necessarily from a financial point of view, but from a development point of view, it's really kind of cool because it's like, oh, well, like these ideas are getting more fleshed out and these ideas are getting more fleshed out. So by the time users get them, they should have a unit that's been, beat up and put through the ringer by a lot of us. And like the artists are going to be getting their units soon enough as well, and that's going to be really interesting as well. I can't wait to see some of those legends getting a hold of them and kind of putting them through their paces. Those sorts of guys tend to do things a little bit different. Like that sort of testing is different, and it's going to be fun to see how they're creating with it. I think we're going to probably all be fortunate to reap the benefits of the music that gets created from that. So I'm personally looking forward to that because I'm a fan.
Yeah, I really can't wait to hear what people come up with on my little baby.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all fans of a lot of these guys. So, and it's going to be fun, and I look forward to doing beats better than them, and so it'll be good times.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Ski Beats, I'm coming for you.
Ski Beats.
So yeah, that's the homie. But yeah, so
Ski Beats is getting a unit very soon as well. So that if you want to look at some of the people that are testing out that are on the early test team, you can go to the Isla Instruments S2400 page and scroll to the bottom of the page, and you'll see all the people. There's about 20 or so, like a lot of our favorite. I've been accused of being a bit biased with that stuff. So I don't care. I'm not necessarily a hip hop guy. I'm an old school house guy. So we've got people like Kenny Dope, Kerry Chandler, Roger Sanchez. They're my guys. And there's a lot of hip hop guys that we love as well. You got Ski Beats in there. You introduced me to Ski Beats, EA Ski. There's some real guys that were just notable from the SP1200 that are gonna.
Yeah, there's a few of those cats
that I'm
personally pop. Like,
yeah.
I'm just, because I am the hip hop head, so like I'm like, there's a few of these cats that I'm just like, yeah. Man. Not only do I want to see what they do, but I want to do better than them because that's part of hip hop.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's a whole other show in itself. Is the differentiation between what the SP1200 meant to so many different people around the world. Like the SP1200 is super responsible for French house, which was like such a phenomenon, like Daft Punk, Alan Braxe, stuff like that. And the whole movement in the UK with filter disco and all that kind of stuff is leaps and bounds. Loads of the guys in the hip hop community don't know about.
Yeah.
These whole genres of music that were made on the machine, and similarly, the guys in the house music scene don't really know how influential the SP1200 was.
I gotta tell you, the stuff that I'm really excited about is
this is Isla. This who Isla Instruments is
Isla
named
right
after.
there. Isla's the blue.
She's the boss. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
Oh.
You're the boss.
I am the boss.
I'm your daughter.
Okay. I'm not the boss. I am the boss. I mean,
And I'm your daughter.
yeah.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, we'll end it off.
We got the dog in here and everything now. Look.
That's the way it should be.
Even we got Kitty.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that's all good. And yeah, if people have some questions, feel free to ask. And if it's something that makes sense to answer, I'll answer it. If it doesn't make sense to answer, meaning like if you're asking a question that's like, well, that part hasn't even been developed yet, or we're just not there yet, then I'm probably not going to respond to it. It's not out of rudeness. It's out of, dude, like, there's so much time in a day, and I work on a lot of other projects. I'm not going to answer every single thing that comes down the pipe, but just know that it's all being worked on quite hectically and diligently, and by some brilliant people. So, just be aware of that.
She is the most highest paid employee, just so you know, Red Wolves. Okay. So.
Yep.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, so you can head over to IslaInstruments.com.
No, actually, somebody else. What?
Shh.
All right, say bye, Isla.
Say bye, Isla.
Bye.